Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Behind the Screens, your favorite esports and gaming talk show here at Radio UTD. I'm Hector.
I'm Hitarth.
And I'm Adi.
And we're back. This is actually the first episode of the semester, so we're glad to be back. A lot of technical difficulties coming in with COVID and us not being at the station as per usual. But if you did listen to a lot of our episodes over the summer, thank you for joining in there. We will have a lot more of our episodes posted onto YouTube, as well as if you're listening live on the Mixer right now, and potentially even live on Twitch. So if you're not following Radio UTD on Twitch right now, it's going to be twitch.tv/Radio UTD, and you can follow us there, as well as Twitter. If you want to follow there, it's going to be at Radio UTD. But we missed a lot since the last 3 weeks that we were recording, no?
Yeah.
I'd say a lot happened.
One of our major complaints, like last time we held the show, is just like no company's doing anything, and then we went on break and we came back, and every company has now done something.
It was just this big break. Even Nintendo, we had so much, Hector had so much hope for Nintendo, but then he was like, "Wow, Nintendo's been really disappointing."
But
and
then something happened.
We'll get to it.
But I think we can kick things off. Xbox kind of. If you've been following in the previous or anything regarding console gaming for that matter, you know that Xbox and PlayStation are revealing their new consoles. And so, to everyone's surprise, Xbox actually released a Series S just a couple days ago, actually maybe a week ago from the time of recording, which is actually just an all-digital smaller version of the Series X.
they're just re-pulling what PlayStation and Nintendo did with a lot of their consoles and devices.
What I find interesting about this is that this console right here is basically everything everyone rioted at when they announced the original Xbox One, with the plans of it being all digital only. And now here it is as a console. Obviously, it's fine because, the Xbox Series X exists, and we'll go more into that, in a little bit. And that obviously has a disk drive, but the Series S is, smaller than the Series X. It's all digital, so you have to download your games. It's 1440p up to 120 frames a second. Ray tracing, because that seems to be the new hot fad, to show that your console is powerful. And then 4K game upscaling. But I think what really makes all of that stick out is that it has a price point of $300. And for a next generation console, that's insanely affordable.
Yeah, definitely. If you think about it from this standpoint, I think PlayStation 3, right? When that came out and that was the next gen console, that was what, $600, I believe. I think we've talked about it previously.
The PlayStation, I think it was.
It was something absurd.
I think it was
that.
It was something absurd. I think they initially planned to have it be 700, then they pulled it back to 600, and then the 600 flopped as well.
Yeah, and we see just now with the gaming trends, with everyone in quarantine more than ever, people are trying to get their hands on some form of entertainment, and I think both Microsoft and Sony, and even Nintendo for that matter, are really paying attention to that and keeping that into account when they're creating these next gen consoles. So having that competitive of a price point, matching that of Nintendo Switch even, being one of the consoles that got a ton of gross sales over the holiday season because of its low price tag and how family friendly it was. I think this is going to be a phenomenal deal, and I actually foresee it selling double, even triple the amount of consoles as the Series X, which for those of you that don't know is the more powerful version of the S, coming in at $500. But I can touch bases just a little on the Series X and basically what the difference between them are.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, so if you look at the Series X and S, the X is the one that everyone was talking about, comparing it to the fridge and kind of just memeing about it. Obviously, they're both going to be able to run the same games, but big differences really come down to a couple things, really. First being the storage. The Series X is going to have 1 terabyte versus the all-digital Series S is going to be 512 gig. And I think that's a big talking point for a lot of people, because it looks like and if I could be mistaken, but it looks like the expansion card for this, or the expansion storage, is solely a card that's proprietary from Xbox. And if that is the case, then it's going to be pretty expensive to expand that storage. I could be wrong on the expansion card, but everyone keeps bringing up that point where it's, okay, it's all digital, so think about it this way, right? If you have physical games and you have a terabyte, great. Most of the games on console like still download onto the drive, but they do have some form of written things on the disc. But if you're downloading straight from Xbox like services onto the console, that 512 I would imagine is going to fill up really fast with these next gen games.
I mean, that makes a lot of sense with how things have been going so far.
It's honestly absurd, like how much space games take now, because the example I'll use here is for the PS4 that I use, and like my PS4 I believe has 512 gigs of storage, and I'm not a person that does like a lot of like online or like downloading for games and all that stuff. I mostly just put in a disc, play single player games, and I still manage to find that filled up to the brim every now and then, and I have to delete like old saves or something.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, realistically, unless you're someone to like finish a game, then delete the previous game that you're just playing and never touch it again, a lot of people are actually looking at the Series X not from the performance standpoint, but actually that storage, which is quite funny. So I do think that's a really big talking point right there as far as that. Another big difference, though, is going to be in that performance, like I was talking about. 4K at 60 is going to be the Series X's performance. Meanwhile, Series S is 1440p at 60, or up to 120. Both of them up to 120 FPS. But that's a pretty big difference, right?
And for the record, really fast, the Series S can do 4K, but it's not native. It is upscaled.
Yeah, it's
Series
upscaled.
X will be doing native 4K at 60 FPS.
Yeah, they both run pretty similar AMD CPUs, but the GPU differential is from 4 teraflops on the S to 12, so tripling the teraflops from between the two consoles. Barring all the like super technical like talk, basically in essence, the X is going to be more powerful with more storage, but it is going to be at $200 more. So that's basically where the thing that everyone's talking about. But think from like a parent standpoint, going to the store, your kid wants the new Xbox, it's going to be very appealing to just grab that $300 one, throw that in for Christmas kind of thing, and I think that'll get a lot more sales.
I will say though,
Throw it in for Christmas.
I
say that like it's like not $300.
Yeah, went out and got some soda, an Xbox Series X, and some chips. What you want?
Yeah.
It sounds like your parents, Audie, right? Next thing I know, they come home with one.
Oh my god. Anyways,
But all memes aside, that's still insane. Like when you look at it, it's also it's a good option for players as well, because there are a lot of people who want these like next gen consoles, but don't want to have to spend like a whole $600 when they only plan on getting like a few games. And they don't really care too much about that, like 4K versus 1440p, which honestly, in my opinion, I think the 1440p, 60 FPS up to 120, I think that's good enough. Honestly,
I agree.
Yeah.
I think getting a few games with that for 300 and then like some few 3-4 games for that would just be enough for that price. I think that'd be totally worth it.
I agree completely.
And then they've also made it clear that both consoles, the Xbox Series X and the Series S, are going to be compatible with Xbox One and Xbox 360 games. Obviously, for the Series S, that being digital, and the Series X, just you can pop in a disc, which is amazing. I think it's going back 2 generations now.
Yeah, that's great to hear. And I mean, they've done that with the Xbox One, where they've had kind of a hybrid of not backwards compatibility necessarily, but they've been releasing these like weird like Xbox One and Xbox 360 merged into one disc type thing. And I know that was pretty confusing. They did it for like games like Red Dead, the original Red Dead Redemption, and
I think
and
Far
other
Cry
games.
3 also had the same treatment, and Far Cry 4.
It was a very confusing time, and I think it was confusing for the consumers as well, kind of like not understanding what the hell they need to get. Like, is this an Xbox 360 game? Is this an Xbox One game? So I'm glad that now they're just saying straight up, you can do backwards compatibility with these games, and you should be fine.
I will say though, and this is, I'm jumping onto a different point. I didn't mean to like interrupt what you
You're
were
good.
saying. I was and I'll get more into this when we talk about PlayStation here in a bit. But I feel like with this generation, with having a version that's fully digital, I don't foresee this being as much of a problem for Xbox as it is PlayStation. But I can already see the horror stories of it being Christmas morning. Little Billy runs downstairs, opens up the Xbox Series X, and tries to put in the physical games that his parents also got him.
Yeah,
Oh,
that is
man.
definitely something. I mean, like, you think about it like this, and like us being pretty tech savvy and understanding consoles and gaming and stuff, it's understandable that we know all digital, right?
Yeah.
But especially like you were just mentioning, if a parent gets it for someone and they also get a game that they're interested in, them opening it, getting the disc out, and then being like, wait a minute, where is the disc drive? I think they're gonna have to definitely market it accordingly on the box more than anything, because I think they've done a great job over at Xbox marketing this as an all digital, making sure that the consumers understand it.
It
but
definitely helps that the Series X and the Series S look drastically different, so it's way harder to make that mistake.
Yeah.
And again,
Yeah.
we'll touch more on this whenever we get to PlayStation. I'll explain why. Like that's going to be a much bigger problem there.
yeah,
I like this. I like
completely
this
agree.
trend of this being a Christmas gift idea that we've just kept thinking of.
Well,
And all I can imagine for it is that on Christmas Day, little Timmy comes downstairs, wakes up, sees a decently sized box, thinking it's the new gen console. He opens up his palm, like, "Hey, we got you that little mini fridge you always wanted for your room."
Also, the reason we keep touting this as, like a Christmas present is because they did finally give a release date. Like everyone, there was this big he said, she said about like, okay, when are they going to announce like when it's coming out and what the prices are going to be?
Yeah.
It's coming out November 10th. That is like confirmed. And then we already mentioned that the Series X is $500 and the Series S is $300.
Yep.
hmm
Which is huge, and I think that's a really good differential between like quote unquote a pro version and a base model. Just with everything going on right now, and Xbox Game Pass being a huge service that Xbox has, that mind you, I actually think it's probably the best gaming subscription service out of any service for that matter. And so I think driving that as the console's forefront is really cool. But that kind of ties into this next point that I wanted to talk about, which is actually Xbox All Access. I don't know if you guys are too familiar with it. It's been out for a while now, but basically what it is a monthly subscription, in a sense, a monthly payment where you can pay upfront, you don't pay any upfront and you pay monthly, and you get the console and you get like 24 months of Game Pass. So for instance, the Model S, or I'm thinking like Tesla now, dude. Tesla's always on my mind. Series S. They have the Series S for $25 a month for 24 months, and it comes with the console and 24 months of Game Pass.
Okay, yeah,
Okay.
I was interested in seeing what
So-
they were marketing All Access as.
Yes.
So this is essentially like your own pay over time, but for a console, and they're just doing it like upfront instead of like through like Staples or something.
Yeah, think about like when you go to Best Buy, like they give you the option if you have a credit card to pay over monthly. It's the same thing, but it's through Xbox, and I think they do it through any retailer that you can do it with. It's just like through Xbox that you're paying it monthly. But yeah, you get the console and you get Game Pass Ultimate. And honestly, from my point of view, like if you're thinking of like the longevity of the console and like having good games to play, Game Pass has a ton of games that you can play. And so I think $25 a month for a console and the games is actually a great deal.
Yeah, over the course of 2 months. And Xbox definitely seems to be pushing more towards the front of, if you pick up one of our consoles, you should be able to play the games that you want to on pretty much anything, like on PC, and like now they're pushing mobile too, like you can stream it via mobile and play with the controller.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. I mean, $35 for the Xbox Series X.
I would
For
say
those wondering.
I'm looking at the prices, and I know some of y'all hardcore fans will look at these prices and then be like, well, what's really more worth it, doing this or just buying the console and having it? But normally Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, so it gives you 24 months of it, but normally per month for Xbox Game Pass Ultimate it's at $15.
Yep.
So
Yeah, so why wouldn't you just add $10
So basically,
to that?
it's
and then also
$10
just get
a
a
month for 24 months, so $240.
Yeah.
It's a really good deal. I think there will be a lot of people that jump onto that offer, and myself included. Like, if I was actually really into Xbox, and I just like knew that I liked the Game Pass games and I played every now and then, I think that's a great thing to pick up, because every Microsoft like IP they're throwing onto Game Pass immediately on the launch of it, and so
And then also,
having access to that's phenomenal.
And then also of note is they're also including EA games onto Xbox Game
Yes.
Pass. Now they announced that recently,
Yeah, I'm
which
glad you
gives the
brought
pass
that up.
even more value.
So if, for those of you that don't know, and I think we've touched bases on it on previous episodes, but EA Play, which was a service made by EA, obviously, having all of those games such as Battlefield, Titanfall, The Sims, stuff like that, all in one subscription model, for only about $5 per month, so it was relatively cheap. But now they're transitioning that into Game Pass, so if you have Game Pass, you will now have EA Play automatically for free. But they also brought EA Play onto Steam as well. That is just the $5, so nothing's new there. But as of about 6 months ago, I believe they're kind of getting rid of EA Origin, and so they're kind of just getting rid of any sort of thing that's tied to it subscription-wise and tossing that over to other services. But I'd imagine that Xbox paid EA a
hefty
good
sum.
amount, and I think EA definitely took that and just ran with it. But I mean, EA games are pretty good most of the time, but they don't come out too frequently, so I think that's why it was kind of hard to opt for something like EA Play, where it's a monthly subscription, but they only make new games like once a year type thing.
Yeah, I will say though, like looking at, like taking a step back and looking at the way Xbox is handling next generation as a whole, I think they've done an excellent job, like regarding having like the one that's 500, the one that's more accessible at 300, having all these like various of like ways to pay for the console and get like a bunch of games for the console. The only main sticking point that I see, and this might just be personal preference, but I just personally haven't seen a lot about it. As of right now, nothing's really making stick out, seeing like, okay, I need to drop what I'm doing right now and pick up this new console. Like what? Like
Yeah. No,
like
I
games wise,
agree.
I mean, like I suppose you have Halo Infinite, but like, has anything else really been confirmed as like an exclusive? Because like Assassin's Creed Valhalla is multi-platform, Cyberpunk 2077 multi-platform, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think, well, Cyberpunk is coming out for PlayStation, or no? Is it just PC and Xbox? I actually don't know. No. Cyberpunk 2077.
I mean,
It's coming out PlayStation, so yeah. Like you said.
and then Cyberpunk is also one of those games that is also releasing on previous generations with a next generation upgrade being free.
Yeah, that's a great point, and we'll touch bases on that once we talk about PlayStation games. Before we do, though, I did want to bring back Deal of the Week. For those of you that don't know, we do this weekly thing where I talk about a good deal that we have going on in the gaming realm, and I think Humble Bundle, even though we talk about it literally every single time,
They're
actually
a mainstay
have,
here, aren't they?
yeah, they just have a crazy good deal right now. For those of you that don't know, Humble Choice is their new subscription model. For $12, you can pick about 3 games. This month they're doing a limited time thing where you can subscribe and get all 12 games rather than choosing according to how much you're paying for. So 12 games for $12, and you're getting great games like Forager, Catherine, Ukulele, and Golf with Your Friends is a great time, Lethal League. Just phenomenal games for such a low price at that $12 for all of those. And for those of you that also may not know, always supporting charity for this stuff, so it's a great cause when you are paying for this type of subscription model.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I want to avoid maybe slight confusion to y'all hearing. It's Lethal League Blaze, The
My
Yeah,
bad.
which is the sequel.
Not the
which is
the sequel, not the original, because the original game's called Lethal League.
Okay,
yeah,
yeah.
and then
Clear that
the
up
ukulele
quickly.
is not the original. It is the sequel, Ukulele, The Impossible Lair, which is a 2D platform and not an open world 3D collectathon.
And I've
Okay,
tried
yeah.
it out. I think it's pretty fun.
Yeah,
Honestly.
you mentioned that you like the structure of it quite a lot, didn't you?
I really do. I like the idea behind you can just play the final level of the game immediately, but if you want to actually follow the story of the game, you do the normal levels of the game, which give you help for that final level of the game. And so I like that choice you have, where you can basically play as much of the game as you want and then go back to the final level.
Yeah, I watched you play it. It was like a really cool concept.
Oh yeah, I died so much in that final level just because I'm trying to do it. I'm gonna beat it.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
because you
beat
keep
that
trying to do it
level.
without like doing like the first tutorial level because
I'm
the game
doing
just
it.
throws
I'm
you
gonna
into the
do it.
final level.
That's just
I've
Hitarth.
got
He
this. I
loves
learned the
doing
controls.
stuff like
That's
that.
And before I know we're gonna move on off of Xbox Series X, but I ran the numbers because I love checking prices and all that for this stuff.
Yeah.
Good to know.
It's just another option. It's not even that big of a discount just for having that in Game Pass, because for 24 months of Game Pass Ultimate
Mhm.
and the Series X, you're only doing this like monthly payment instead. At the end of the 24 months, you're saving maybe $20.
And it's less about the saving and more about the financing, right? Like, I
Yeah.
think
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
that's what people are really looking at, because that's the model that even like phone companies have been doing for several years now,
Yeah,
where it's like instead of
exactly.
paying $800, they just try getting that like as low as $25, and
You're
then
really lowballing with $800, aren't you?
oh,
Yeah, honestly.
yeah, honestly, with
Hector's out here being rich and all that, don't
with
let-
new Apple
don't let
products
him.
is what I'm saying like, oh, it's
Oh,
only $800, but then now it just looks more appealing when they say like a low cost, but it's monthly, because I think
Yeah, exactly.
people just forget that they're paying monthly things half the time.
The next thing you
Most
know,
of the
they're
time,
gonna
not
be
phone
$100.
things, but EA Play, for instance, I've been paying for 3
I was
months, and
saying,
I
yeah,
completely
you had
forgot.
something you were
Yeah, you-
paying for you forgot about.
And I was like, yeah, EA hasn't released a game on that in like what 7 months now, so yeah.
But I just want to let everyone know it's still $20 off, and you get to pay monthly. So I still think that's worth it.
Yeah,
You
I
get
think
to.
that's
You
a
have
better
to pay
alternative.
monthly.
I mean,
you get to
okay.
play monthly. But yeah, moving into PlayStation, they just recently also had a conference about 2 days ago from the time of this being live. PlayStation 5, an official release date and pricing. So, like Adi was mentioning, they kind of went a back and forth between Xbox, PlayStation, who's going to release their blah, blah, blah. Finally, PlayStation, after Xbox, announced $400 for the all-digital, $500 for physical, which is very important to look at, right? When you're looking at these numbers, they look decent, but you also have to compare them to the Series X and S. The reason why I say that is the $400 for all digital is not the same as the X all digital, because it's not actually this same exact specs over at Xbox. What Xbox decided to do is make a better version being their base, and then like a cheaper version being their all digital, but it's also not as powerful. Over at PlayStation, on the other hand, the all digital is on par with the power as the physical one, just with no disc drive.
And that makes sense with comparing to the Xbox Series X versus S prices, where the X is 500, the S is 300, and it makes sense that it's 200 less there, but for here, it's only 100 less.
Yeah.
So, like, you're paying 100 more, theoretically, if you think about it in that comparison, but you're getting the same specs as the higher tier one, except the only difference now is just the physical versus digital.
See, it gets stuck in this weird spot, right? When it comes to pricing, I think, just because it's $100 apart. But you have to consider, like, if it was not on par specs wise, I could see a debate for it should be 300, but it is on par with like the physical version.
Mhm.
So it's increased to 400, but 400 is only 100 away from 500, and with 500 you can just get physical games too, and
Exactly.
discs.
So it's just, I guess it's more that appeal to the players who would rather do physical games versus digital games, and then the whole idea behind, well, if I'm doing just digital,
That's
how
me on
much,
players.
yeah, how much space am I actually going to be using up with this digital console that I saved $100 on? versus if I paid 100 more and got the physical one with the same specs and everything, except I have probably a lot more room for physical games.
I did find it really interesting, like this capacity that they chose to put inside of both PS5s being 825 gigabytes. It's just like such an awkward number. Right? Yeah, I believe so. I think if anything, I could be wrong. If that was one thing that they would change between it would be like less storage on the digital one. But as far as what I could see online, it looks like they both have the same exact specs, barring the disk drive. Which, if you think about it from that perspective, like, there's gonna be probably minor sales for that 500 version. If they're exact same specs, I know there are a lot of people that are going to be looking at that physical version for two reasons, right? It's either they love collecting discs and they like having physical copies of games, or they really have a big collection of PS4 games and they're trying to do that backwards compatibility thing. And I think Audie might be able to touch on this, but there is some confusion as far as how that's going to really work for PlayStation.
Yeah, they haven't exactly been totally clear on what's like Xbox has just flat out said, okay, yeah, a lot of your 360 and Xbox One games will work, like you can just slide them in. PlayStation, as far as I'm aware, has not made a blatant statement saying like, yes, your PS4 games are backwards compatible. They have something of the sort. They did announce in the PlayStation conference something called the PlayStation Plus collection, which contains a bunch of games from the last generation, like The Last of Us Remastered, Ratchet and Clank, Spider-Man, stuff like that. And that all releases at launch, and it comes with like the benefits of PlayStation Plus. So you can play all of those like digital, but does that mean like since these are playable on the new generation, can I just slide my Spider-Man PS4 disc and will it play?
Yeah, and I think that's not going to be too clear. I really don't even foresee them clearing that up until literally at launch, because I mean, I think they're trying to avoid that fact, and I do think it can be either two things. It's either them not wanting to like explain it, or it has to do with publishers, because I don't know how that works, but I know that it could deal with publishers might not want to have backwards compatibility because they want to re-release the game on the PlayStation 5.
Here, let me go do a little digging, because there might have been like some interview. Okay, I found it. So apparently they did make a statement on it. According to an interview with in Washington Post, Sony PlayStation's boss Jim Ryan said the new console is 99% backwards compatible with the PS4 games the company has tested on it so far.
Okay, well that's good. I guess to put it to that perspective, if it's 99, my assumption is that all of the AAA titles that you would be wanting to play are for sure. It's probably a lot of indie games that probably not, but I mean, going off of that, I guess the next really big thing to tackle between Xbox and PlayStation is going to be that release date, right? I think one thing is, if you look at it from like Xbox is November 10th, PlayStation is going to be November 12th. Do we really think that's going to have a big impact on which people pick up, or do we think it doesn't really matter?
Doubt it. I think it's like for such a like quote unquote big investment, because these are consoles you're going to be using for multiple years. I don't think the span of 2 days is really going to make somebody be like, okay, no, it's too long, I'm going to buy an Xbox.
Yeah, exactly. No, I completely agree. I think it would have been different if like one of them released like Thanksgiving and then the next one wasn't till like Christmas. Then yeah, I think the one that came out before by that margin would. Yeah. But 2 days, and neither of those days are like a holiday or anything like that.
It's such a minimal like amount of time.
Yeah.
I was gonna say,
but I think.
Go for it.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna make a slight comparison to one of our close friends and one of the petty, like, slight things that he did regarding Borderlands 3, which was Phil. And what he did was so Borderlands 3 released initially, right, on Epic. Audie, I want you to correct me if I'm wrong.
No, you're right. No, it released on Epic Games first, and it had exclusivity for 6 months.
For 6 months. And so Phil, because he's petty and he doesn't like Epic Games and he doesn't support them at all, he was really excited for Borderlands 3, but like he waited his favorite games. 6 months just so he didn't have to get it on Epic, and so you could.
But you know what? It was kind of a big brain play, because that game, for some reason, and I still don't know why to this date, dropped in price as hard as like Fallout 76 did for some reason.
I think it's kind of like that third game complex, where if you think about it, games like Portal and Portal 2, if a third game were to be released, would it live up to the hype that people are expecting? I think Borderlands 3 kind of had that same, like...
No, I think a lot of what, like, at the time people didn't like Epic for, like, nabbing games and keeping them as exclusives on PC, because, you know, that had not really been heard of prior to, like, them doing them. Yeah. And, like, I wouldn't call Phil's decision petty. It's more like he was voting with his money. Like he opts not to support Epic, and if he has to wait like 6 months to play a game that he likes, like, you know, that's fine.
I think that was the first word that came to my mind.
I mean, I don't see it as petty either. The way that I see it, though, I guess I see it more from like a marketing / like business standpoint rather than consumer, and it actually is pretty understandable, right? Like, obviously Epic Games is on the like benefit of that, but I actually think if you truly care about the company that released the game, it's pretty beneficial for them to do timed exclusives with Epic, because everyone knows that they have money out the wazoo and they're willing to pay as much to get those big games for exclusivity. So, like, realistically, yeah, it might be annoying if you don't like having like 600 launchers on your desktop, but I mean, for the company that you love, that creates games that you enjoy, to make a lot of money off of an exclusivity deal, I see that as a plus, but maybe that's just me being optimistic.
But yeah, I just wanted to make that small comparison to a 2-day difference instead.
I mean, speaking of like holding games exclusive or just games exclusivity, let's hop back to PlayStation really fast, right?
Yeah.
Because along with the conference of revealing how much the price and when the release date is going to be, they also showed off way more games, and you know, like, PlayStation really has a massive focus on games. Their main show opened up with a trailer for the next major Final Fantasy, and it looks like it follows the combat style of Final Fantasy 15, where instead of it being turn-based, it's more action-based. And I did see reports that the person who is going to be working on combat for Final Fantasy 16 was also the director for the combat director for Devil May Cry 5. And that game's combat is phenomenal.
Yeah, and then following that, I know a game that you've just been in awe for, Spider-Man Miles Morales.
Yes, sir.
In the notes here, Audie putting, "God, give me this game for the love of all that is holy. It looks so good."
Yeah, I was watching the event live and taking notes for the show. Like, and following that is Miles's mom is a politician, and the game focuses on a new villain that's after an energy company that's in Harlem for its resources. And then I put "gameplay looks tight" in all caps, and it has a holiday 2020 launch window. Yeah,
so
I'm following along obvious hype. I'm very tempted to get a PS5.
Well, you know what's actually interesting?
Some of these games.
And I think we can talk about it right now specifically, because I think this is one of the big games that people are going to consider when they're thinking about this. That actually had a confirmation now that it's going to be releasing on the PS4 and PS5.
Yeah, that they didn't show off a Horizon Forbidden West trailer, but it was confirmed that Horizon Forbidden the English language is hard. Horizon Forbidden West, Sackboy, A Big Adventure, and Spider-Man Miles Morales will be coming out on the PS4 with a free upgrade to the PS5.
Yeah. So, I mean, realistically, for those of you that are really hyped for Miles Morales and you're looking for that
that's me, this guy,
for that game, and you really don't want to probably put in that $400-$500 price tag for just that one game as of now, if that's all you're looking forward to, go ahead and pick it up on the PS4 when it comes out, and then later on, once you do get a PS5, you can always play it on there, because like Adi said, you will have that capability of just throwing it into that PS5 with free expansion, which I think is a hell of a deal, right? Like, and going off of that as well, and I think we're kind of jumping up and down, but I found something interesting, and I know we talked about it on previous shows. Pricing for games for this next gen console seems to be quite interesting, and Miles Morales is no no questionable, like this. I can't even put words to it because it's so confusing to me as to why it's at $50.
Okay, so I do remember when they initially showed off Miles Morales, there was a little bit of confusion as if it was to be a standalone Spider-Man game or some sort of really big expansion to Spider-Man PS4, and that really didn't get wrapped up because you had some people from Insomniac saying, yeah, you know, it's like more of an expansion of like the PS4, and then another person from Insomniac was just like, okay, that guy never spoke, this is a new game.
Yeah, that's actually really funny. But I mean, and that could go on to like seeing how pricing is, but with games like NBA 2K21 being confirmed to be $70, Demon Souls, Destruction All Stars, games that like are not even like crazy expansive or anything like that, being $70, I think it's going to be an interesting time looking at prices for games. And I mean, it is inevitable that games are going to be increasing in price, just with how much
we talked about on a previous show.
With just how much goes into games nowadays with next gen games. But I mean, I'm excited that Miles Morales is going to be $50. Hopefully it does have enough content to live up to that. And they actually have an Ultimate Edition being $70 as well, but it comes with Miles Morales and the original game.
Oh, is that what's... Yeah, for $70. Geez, that's worth it. If it also comes with all the original, like, Spider-Man DLC as well, because I was never able to pick that up, but apparently the content in there is good too.
Yeah, that is what it includes. So, and that will be playable on both PS4 and PS5. So, that is something to keep into account.
But I wanna jump around and just like hit a few high level like other games that are releasing for the PlayStation that they showed off.
Yeah.
They showed off a bit more of Resident Evil Village. It was thankfully not a stuttery frame rate of a mess like it was the last trailer.
Oh, I remember that. That was hard.
It was a horror story, like a horror story, and not the type that Resident Evil succeeds in. But it looks, again, they didn't show off gameplay. It was just more cinematics and showing off like the setting that it takes place in, and like Spooky Mountain. They show off a few of the enemies that look more like werewolfish, if I guess I had to like put a term to it.
Yeah.
But they gave it a 2021 release window, and a lot of these were like 2021 release windows. Honestly, like Deathloop, which is the next Bethesda game, features time looping, and the idea is you need to like line up as many targets as you can within a given cycle.
Yeah, that game looks awesome. I'm excited for that.
That's one I'm really excited for. That one looks really hype.
And then for like completely new titles that they announced, there was Hogwarts Legacy, which was mostly like cinematic trailer. I'm guessing they were hoping that you'd be just wowed on the fact that there's a Hogwarts game. But people are a little iffy on that game because of J.K. Rowling. We're not going to get into it. You can feel free to look that up on your own time. But, you know, it looked to be a third-person action game from what I can tell, releasing next year.
Mm-hmm.
And then the one that completely caught me off guard was them announcing a new Five Nights game.
Really? Mine was Fortnite getting onto PS5.
Who would have guessed?
You know, the obvious stuff.
No,
aside.
but it's a title, Five Nights at Freddy Security Breach, and you know, it was just a cinematic trailer, but it didn't show much. But the fact that like Scott Cawthon goes from releasing a game onto Steam, like, you know, that like was a passion project based on a failed project of his before, to being one of the main like showcases of the next generation of games is insane.
Incredible. Yeah, that's really, really cool, and I think that just goes to show like how devotion towards a passion like that, or creating a game, and how this game has evolved over Steam especially, and going into mobile, and now really flourishing with this next gen consoles. It's awesome to
VR.
see. Yeah, VR even.
He did almost everything with this Five Nights series that you can think of, from a web
he pulled a
game
Fortnite Minecraft, you know, where they just poured it to every single thing imaginable.
No, he pulled a GTA.
Matt Pat's eating good tonight.
Except it's not one game; it's multiple games across the series.
Yeah.
And I'm very interested. I'm excited for this game, especially because I just want to see where Five Nights is going with the PS5. What like can you do with the like software upgrade that he can do with that.
Yeah.
Because like he did VR, and VR wasn't that bad, honestly. It was a good
it's pretty
experience,
good.
especially for a horror game.
Yep.
So I'm just wondering where he's taking it with the next gen
Yeah, I
console.
saw Five Nights at VR said you could not pay me enough money to put that helmet on, and then left.
Yeah, but I guess wrapping up the PlayStation conference, a really big game as well. God of War 5 Ragnarok, confirmed coming out 2021.
I really need to play God of War. I mean, I heard God of War 4, I guess 4 technically, was like an excellent game, even though like people are unsure about it being like closer third person, not as dramatic action. Apparently like lived up to the hopes and dreams. So I know people are very excited for God of War 5 Ragnarok.
Yeah, for reference, God of War 4 was the God of War. I believe that's just what it was called.
Yeah, it was just called God of
and
War, which
that
is why
actually
it's,
got
a little
like
bit confusing.
it got Game of the Year, I think 2018 or something like that. So
I know a lot of people are
No,
happy
not
just
2018.
at
I
like
think it
the
was like
announcement of that.
2016 or something. I don't know.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
a little further back.
It was a
Like,
while ago.
cross-reference
Time
that.
is confusing, but you know what's not confusing? Well, actually, it is confusing to me still, because after everything that everyone doubted me for, Nintendo finally pulled it out, and they did something unthinkable.
They released a direct.
They released a direct 364 days after their last full direct, and you know what it
Almost
was?
a whole year. Could you believe that?
Nintendo's 35th anniversary.
But for what franchise, Hector?
For Mario. For Mario.
Sir.
And you know how many times I've pulled this up in previous episodes. We're getting Super Mario 3D All-Stars.
Which,
Would you like to- would you
by
like
the
to
time this
explain?
goes live, will be out, and odds are
Yes.
all three of us will be off playing it.
Right now, when you're listening to this, the 18th of September, Mario 3D All-Stars is coming out, and that is basically a collection of 3 classic 3D Mario games, being the original Mario 64, Super Mario Sunshine, and Mario Galaxy, all coming out in one collection for $60. All 3 basically getting some sort of HD,
Just
not
like
necessarily
touch-ups.
remake,
I would
but
say
it's
touch-ups.
basically touch-ups. In essence, it's basically upscaled emulators, if that makes sense.
It is what the games have needed after all this time.
Yeah.
Because once Nintendo stopped doing anything with them, people did, and Nintendo's like, we're gonna jump
Like,
back on the
hold on
horse
a second.
and actually bring it back, and they
Yeah,
did.
and
For Mario 64, they're porting not the N64 like original version, but the Shindo version.
Yeah.
So some people are upset with that just because of this one glitch in the game for speedrunners use called a BLJ or backwards long jump. That's patched out from the Shindo version. So
Yeah.
people are upset at that, but still excited that it's getting a port.
I don't care. I
Hector's
got to play
excited for
all
Sunshine.
3 games on one console.
yes. Before we go
Okay, yeah.
further into that really quick, I actually
go
just
for it.
want to touch like briefly on everything else that was announced. Obviously, this was the big thing, but there was another pretty big thing that I know Audie's going to be excited for. Super Mario 3D World, which is a Wii U game, finally getting its port on September. That's February and September mixed, by the way.
September.
February 12th, 2021, coming out. It's going to have multiplayer, which is a huge functionality. Online multiplayer, that
I
is.
get to finally play
It's
the game
weird
with
because
Audie.
they didn't advertise that when they
Yeah.
were showing off the trailer. Like
I-
I feel like online multiplayer for a 3D Mario game,
That's
or
a
air
big
quotes
thing.
3D Mario
Well,
game, it's a big thing.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. It's going to be interesting. I'd like to see how that works. But it's
It
also
better
going to
be
include
player-to-player.
It is.
Bowser's Fury, which is
Yeah,
a
it
new
is.
like DLC, I guess.
Yeah, it's because whenever they re-release stuff onto the Switch, they'll like add more content. Like that happened to the 2D Super Mario Brothers as well. Splatoon, they just decided to make another one, but a lot of it's still framework and gameplay. And for this one, they're adding Bowser's Fury, which they haven't really shown much. It just showed of like a rainy night and a Bowser statue. But if you haven't played this game, like if you didn't own a Wii U, you owe it to yourself to like get this game and a couple of friends and just have at it. It is so much
Yeah.
fun.
There's going to be a great time with that. A couple other things briefly I'll touch on. Mario Kart getting sort of like a toy version that mixed with a game. It's kind of confusing, but it's kind of cool. Mario Kart Live Home Circuit, it's what it's called. And then a handheld collectible device called Game & Watch Super Mario Bros. For those of you that don't know, Game & Watch systems kind of originally debuting back in the 80s, now getting like a collectible item that can play Super Mario Bros. As well as like a version of Game & Watch that has Mario's head, which is really cool.
I think that was a really cool idea. They're bringing back this Game & Watch stuff because I think that was really like
it'll make for like a
on.
cool, cute collector's item.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and then if you guys remember, where Nintendo did Tetris 99, where it was a Tetris Battle Royale with players.
Well, really quick, before you say that, and this is about what he was going to announce, there was, like he said earlier, when Nintendo doesn't do something for such a long time, fans kind of bring that up and they make it themselves. This was something that actually fans made, and I actually arguably think fans made it much better than they announced it. It's called Super Mario Bros. 35. But go ahead, Hitarth.
Yeah, so like Tetris 99, it's a Battle Royale, but Super Mario Brothers edition.
Yep.
So you'll have 35 players competing all against each other to be the last Mario standing in the original Super Mario Bros. Game.
Yeah.
And this is coming out October 1st, I believe. Digital only, similar to Tetris 99, and it's exclusive only to Nintendo Switch Online members.
Yep, and like when I was just mentioning, some fans of Mario made this prior. It was called Super Mario 99, I believe, something like that, where 99 players could play against each other in a similar battle royale, and it was actually a little more polished than this in a way because it had basically enough people in the lobby that everyone would play and you could kind of see like silhouettes of each other. This one has a slightly different approach where you can see all 35 screens on your screen and then one big being yours in the middle. So that's really interesting to me. I think it'll be fun though.
Let's talk about the massive asterisk, like the elephant in the room to all of this. And this applies to Super Mario All-Stars and then the Super Mario 3D, or not the Super Mario All-Stars, the Super Mario Brothers 35, like Battle Royale, and the Super Mario 3D All-Stars, which for some reason is only available till March 31st, 2021.
Yeah, and I think we can all debate what we think each of these are, but ultimately at the end of the day, only people at Nintendo would know. My guess as far is that it would be some sort of thing coming out March 31st, kind of marking the end of Nintendo's fiscal year. So that's like an important date to them specifically. But even then, I do think they are having some plans to do other sort of subscription-based thing or something regarding Nintendo Switch console. Online. Yeah, Virtual Console, bringing that back onto the Switch. I'm interested to see what they do, but like you said, it's not as confusing for the Mario Bros 35 because that's like just like a 35th anniversary special type thing, but Mario All-Stars being a really big game and like one of the few games that they're releasing this year from Nintendo IP, those three classic games back to life, having that be only available not only physically but also digitally until the 31st of March is very bizarre to me. I don't know what you guys think, like what they might be doing.
Think this is optimistically and hopefully this is all in prep for them to be like, oh yeah, all these games you can like buy separately like past March 31st, and also we're going to be putting like, more older games that we don't plan to remake on there.
Yeah.
I wonder if we're going to start bringing back games from all the way back the Wii shop, because that got discontinued, I believe, and so there was a bunch of games that are on there that like you just can't get anymore.
Who knows? Only Nintendo, and we'll figure that out in probably one more year from now when they have their next Direct, Maybe they'll announce why that's happening.
Hector, 364 days.
Yeah, my bad.
Yeah.
But I'm hyped over here from behind the screens. I think all of us are going to be diving into 3D All-Stars.
That's our entire day tomorrow. What do you mean?
Yeah, I'm beyond hyped. Super Mario Sunshine being one of my most favorite games of all time. 64 and Galaxy, actually two games that I haven't played too much out of all of the 3D Mario games. So I'm super, super excited to jump into those. But yeah, that's about it.
I mean, yeah, like you said, we're all excited for 3D All-Stars. I think, like you said, it's going to be our entire day tomorrow. At least, I think you already pre-ordered it, right, Hector?
I did. I'm picking it up from Best Buy.
Yes, sir. Because I don't think Audie or I have at all.
I'll see you
I
guys
don't
in
remember if Audie
364
said he
days.
did. But anyways, wrapping up our show a little bit, we actually bringing back new music. I know you guys, if you're following us on YouTube, might have missed it, but we're coming back with it. So just bringing it up, we've got 3 new music songs right after this. It's going to be Jillian and DIY, 2 songs both by Dreamnails from their 2020 album, also called Dreamnails. And Dreamnails are a punk rock group that was founded by feminist activists in 2015. And so their hotly tipped band of witches mix political rage with their catchy pop and punk rock music. And
That's
they have a lot more.
description.
So when you're looking at the group, right? When I listened to the music, I initially thought it actually could be electropop, but then I looked at it actually and I was like, no, this is definitely more a mix of punk rock and with pop style. The style of music is like very heavily band oriented and guitar, and so they combine that together with like very political lyrics, and I found it really catchy overall.
Sounds interesting. I'll have to give it a listen.
Yeah. And then the third one, right after that, is going to be Haley by Marquise Martin. I think I'm pronouncing that right. It's from his album, which is called Brave and Afraid. And so I remember he's a New York City rapper from the coming. He initially started making beats at school, and then he started rapping himself, and eventually he started making his own music. And so this song combines together both hip-hop and rap with his unique style for beats, and it also has a little bit of lo-fi in it. So overall, I hope you guys enjoy these 3 new music.
Sounds good. I think that's all the time we have today. This has been Behind the Screens. If you're going to go outside, be sure to wear a mask, stay safe, and we'll see you guys next time.
Take it easy.
Yep,
Bye.
peace everyone.